We like to call it the Supernatural Hour. And now, our hosts.
Hey, welcome to the Supernatural Hour podcast.
So the main topic, we're going to talk about Devil's Tower and alien stuff related to Devil's Tower.
Yes.
And, talk probably a little bit about Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's probably kind of the quintessential Aliens Devil's Tower movie.
We saw that in the theater.
I did too.
Yeah.
You didn't call it a documentary?
Oh, the documentary. Sorry, yeah.
I was waiting for that.
Those are all documentaries.
Yeah. So there's actually 2 Devil's Towers. Did you know that?
No.
It's like New Jersey.
Yeah, there's another one in New Jersey.
Is it as impressive as the one in Wyoming?
It's like actual tower, like on a building.
Oh, it's man-made.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we'll do it later. Later, we'll do a one on it. I wrote it down in our list of stuff. I was like, oh, hey, I didn't know there's 2. But so we're talking about the one in Wyoming, the one that's a natural formation, the one in the documentary Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't seen it, you need to watch it. We're going to give a couple spoilers, but not too many. If you haven't seen Close Encounters by the Third Time, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, by now, it's your own fault. It's been out for 100 years.
I think 47.
That's almost 100. It's getting close.
I've never seen it.
Okay, you're going to get some spoilers.
Okay.
You're young, though. That's okay.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. It's classic, though. You need to watch it. Okay. I need glasses. I can't see. So the movie came out in 1977.
That's 10 years before my time.
So 43.
I remember it clearly.
It was a big event. It was really a big event, wasn't it?
Yeah. You know what? Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who was one of the principals of that Project Blue Book, he actually had a cameo appearance in that movie.
That's very cool.
Yeah. You just see him for a second with his little, a goatee beard and his pipe up close to the camera looking at the aliens, but that was really him.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it's got like this amazing score. I'm not going to hum it. I promise you I won't sing, but it's 5 notes.
Yep.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah, you shouldn't sing either.
Yeah, I've been told that by other people too.
You have to do it slow. Anyway, it's iconic.
Somebody did like a pop song based on that back then, didn't they? Do you remember that vaguely?
I have heard that, and
Yeah.
I don't remember what it is, but there's
Just
some
when you
song.
mentioned it, I remembered that. There was a pop song back in those days that was based on those 5 notes.
Yes. And even though I gave you a bad time for your bad singing, mine would have been worse. So, there is that. So the thing that I thought was interesting about Devil's Tower is there's so many alien theories about Devil's Tower that it is like Mecca for UFO enthusiasts, and they meet there to reinforce, all their alien beliefs. But it's actually not a hot spot for alien activity.
No, and before Close Encounters of the Third Kind, there had been minor activity there, some UFO activity, but it was really chosen because of how iconic it was for the movie. It wasn't like Roswell or something where there was already lore and history about aliens in that area or alien sightings, and so it was more, this is a really cool site. Now, there's been a lot of spiritual things there. We'll probably get into this a little bit before with Native Americans and sightings, and that's not to say that there haven't been things there historically, but it's been a much bigger thing since the documentary.
No, you're right, because that's the first that I'd heard of it,
as being a hot spot.
Was that year in the release of the movie. I'd never heard of Devil's Tower before that.
Yeah, so just when I was looking up stuff, I found 2 pictures, but both of them are really kind of iffy. One's like, it's probably glare off of a windshield, and one they think is a hoax. It's just, there's not a whole lot. If you want to say something, just jump in.
Okay.
If
I have a couple of things that were really interesting based on what you said.
Yeah, I just kind of raise your hands. Okay, all right, here we go. Ready?
In the 1900s, apparently there was the first photograph of the Devil's Tower, and there's a claim that is the first picture, one of the first pictures of UFOs in general. I
that's
tried
cool.
to find it. I couldn't find it, but I did see a video on YouTube that shows these weird 3 lights that like zoom in the sky. And there's like 2 white ones in a line, and then this red one that goes up. So
Was there a date on that video? Do you remember?
let me look here. It was.
Was it film or video actually?
It was. They said it was like a 5-second interval of like pictures of a live stream or something.
Okay.
So
So it's probably recent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it said like 2017, but I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Yeah. That's a contemporary sighting.
Mhm.
Cool.
It is.
She's actually got her alien shirt on tonight too. She's ready.
Hey.
I was
Yep.
like, now's the time.
So before we get more into any alien stuff, let's talk about what Devil's Tower actually is.
The
Um,
geologic
A
formation.
giant tree stump.
So
That's what it looks like,
it
isn't
looks like a giant tree stump, but it's actually geologically explainable. A lot of people think it looks like a huge petrified tree, and some people say, oh, there's a humongous petrified forest there 1 million years ago. But it's actually a volcanically derived feature. And, it's very awe-inspiring. It's very unusual for sure, but it's volcanic. And if you remember the movie, who is the main character in the movie?
Richard Dreyfuss.
Okay, I was like, I can see his face. I can't think of his name. He made Devil's Tower out of mashed potatoes, if you remember that.
That's
scene.
why I kept seeing that online.
Remember, yeah.
I was like, what is this?
This
What
this
is
means
the
something.
potato?
This means something. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then didn't someone make
Well,
another model with
He started with mashed potatoes, and then he
got bigger,
got
bigger,
it bigger until it's like his whole living room.
Yeah,
was,
the whole dining room table and yeah.
He's out cutting out shrubs outside to get trees to put into his rendering. Yeah.
Yeah, watch the documentary. You'll understand. But it's so the type of rock it's made out of is called Igneous Intrusion. If you're a geologist and I get some of this wrong, work with me. I'm not a geologist. It's called Igneous Intrusion. It's a liquid rock that cooled underneath the surface, and it's just less prone to erosion and breakdown.
And one of the things, the reason it's kind of in the hexagon shape is because, as you said, it cools and it cools very slowly because it's never exposed. This never erupted out. It was never a volcano itself. It was a magma column that was rising and then never
just
broke
cooled
open
off.
and cooled in place, but cooled in place over time. And so you get those hexagonal lava, I'll call them lava, with the hexagonal stones. And they have the same kinds of things in Ireland and Scotland.
Yes, I wrote this down.
Okay.
So they have similar thing. In Ireland, it's called the Giant's Causeway. In Scotland, it's called Finnegal's Cave, and there's one in California called the Devil's Post Pile.
That use those same.
Yeah, so my science teacher self was really into this. And I teach rocks and minerals.
Ooh, cool.
Apparently, there was sedimentary rock on the outside because that igneous rock is very, very strong. The sedimentary rock fell away, and so it left behind that harder igneous rock. And apparently, 10,000 years ago was the last time one of those big columns fell.
So it was all a lake bed at one time?
Yeah, apparently it was submerged underwater, and that was able to cool it down. And then I guess when the water went down over time,
Wind and
it
everything
left,
eroded.
yeah, sedimentary rock just got blown away. Erosion and weathering, science.
Wait, you mean it wasn't a tree stump?
I mean, that's science too, so.
It's a damn big tree.
Yeah. So there's a lot of Indian lore around this, and they actually, the National Park Service closes. Okay, let me go back. So this is the first national monument in the country was Devil's Tower.
I think it was 1906.
Teddy Roosevelt announced that.
Yep. And it's open, year round, but there is a period, and I think it was June.
It's
I wrote it
June,
down.
yeah.
June, they closed the monument just out of respect for the native ceremonies. So if you want to go, UFOing at Devil's Tower, June is out. June is for the native.
That's probably the most
population.
active month too, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
And like the hottest. So.
Right. But you know what? There was one other physical aspect to these stones. Apparently, if you hit them just right, they ring.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, I saw that in one of the YouTubes where they talked about that. There's a certain name of the kind of stone
Let's look at our
that
science
they kind of
teacher.
chime.
So I was thinking, first of all, pumice, you use to exfoliate. That is when it goes right into water and instantly cools, and there's bubbles in it, like air pockets. So I'm wondering if there was some way that there's air pockets in it that's causing it. So
That's interesting. I can't think of what cave it was, but I've been in a cave where they've hooked up things, because I'm so smart. They hook up things to the stalactites and they actually play it like an organ.
that was cool.
And I cannot think of where that was.
Transducers?
I don't know. They had
Probably.
things hooked up and you played this organ and it would, hit these stalactites.
Vibrate them.
And they'd vibrate them and it
yeah.
would just kind of do this hum. I really want to go to Devil's Tower and hook stuff
And
up
play
to
the
it
tower.
now and play the tower.
I want to do like an X-ray or whatever can see inside and the structure.
So some people think it's hollow and that there's gold hidden in the caves. It's not hollow, just FYI.
And no cave.
No cave. It's just columns of igneous.
So I can't follow my
Intrusion.
rainbow over and find the cave opening and get my gold?
No, there's no gold.
Okay.
No gold.
It's on the top. That's where it is. It's on the top. The gold's on the top.
Okay.
So there was an interesting Indian lore story about why it looks the way it looks. And the story goes that there was a giant bear who would chase young girls. And not just like a big bear, like a grizzly bear. The pictures that I found online was like a giant bear. Think like a 3 or 4 story tall bear. And the Great Spirit, the power of the Great Spirit rose up, and he wasn't very happy that the giant bear is chasing these girls. And so
Chasing human girls?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's folklore. Folklore, you have to really stretch that imagination. But the Great Spirit was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. And so he actually rose the ground up. And as the bear was, trying to crawl up after the girls, if you could see me, I'm doing a really great rendition here. He left scratch marks.
And that explains the
The striations in the column in the tower.
the texture of the rock.
Yep.
I saw another legend that there's an evil spirit up there, and it's a hater and murderer of people. And when he's enraged, there's a beating of drums, and it causes like thunderstorms and lightning. And apparently, up there's like inexplainable like lighting up there. So
lights have been seen from there?
apparently, but I didn't see
Other
too
than-
many places saying
Other than
that.
lightning?
Apparently, like mysterious lights.
And I saw some cool YouTube videos of Devil's Tower with lightning. I mean, around.
Oh, yeah.
It was very awesome. And it wasn't being paranormal. It was just, YouTubes of cool lightning at Devil's Tower.
Well, it's pretty isolated, isn't it? There's nothing else like it around.
No, and that's the thing. It you think, oh, well, if there's one here, why aren't there others? And there
Right.
aren't. I
Yeah.
mean, it's, what would you call them? Rolling hills?
Yeah.
When we went, we were there 2 years ago, 2 summers ago.
We went in 2020 because there was nothing else to do in 2020. So we put the kids in the car and did a road trip.
Let's go see a big rock.
Well, the intent of the road trip was
Another big rock.
another
Mount
bit. We
Rushmore.
went to Mount Rushmore, but along the way there's Devil's Tower, and there's things to see along the way.
Oh, and Rollins, if you ever get a chance to.
Yes.
We did the Rollins Territorial
Yeah,
Prison.
there you go. Yeah, I was
On
going to
that
say,
same trip.
that's on the way.
Yeah, we didn't ghost
Cool.
hunt it. We just took the kids through. But and I feel kind of bad because we didn't stay at Devil's Tower for very long.
We got there as the sun had just gone down.
Yeah, so we only
We
were-
stayed in Rollins a little too long.
Yeah, and then when we got to Devil's Tower, it's like, you better look fast, kids, because the sun's going to be down in about 15 minutes. So I got lost what I was talking about. Oh, yeah, the rolling hills. There isn't much out there.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty area. The landscape is pretty, but it's not like there are a lot of this type
Mountains
of geological structure. It's the only structure like that.
Yeah, you're out there, rolling hills, plains, rolling hills, big tall mountain,
Yeah.
rolling hill. I mean, big tall column.
And we call it volcanic, and it is because it's the magma that came up, but it was never a volcano. People think, oh, this is the from a volcano, and it never became a volcano. It was just the column of magma that had risen.
Kind of a stillborn volcano.
Yeah, And it's the only one. There aren't others in the area.
Well,
you know?
it's apparently that area is covered in water, so it's interesting. Like the area where it had that magma come up is where it's different, and then as the water went away and the winds of the erosion, so it kind of left everything all flat. And then there's that whole thing.
Science teacher.
Well, and then it makes you wonder: are there some in other places they just haven't eroded yet?
Oh yeah, well who knows what's under there?
You know,
Yeah.
In our backyard, could we have the next Devil's Tower in our backyard? We just haven't eroded it away yet.
Could be.
It's like the sinkhole of Florida.
I doubt it because our backyard's not that big, honey. In case you hadn't noticed.
Work with me here.
What if you end up on the top? It goes
Work with
around
me.
you.
Oh, we'd be isolated. That would be fantastic.
Good luck getting groceries though.
Amazon's going to deliver with drones soon.
They totally.
Yeah,
No,
you're
it works.
okay.
That works. Okay, we're good.
Well,
Amazon can still come. I'm happy.
Apparently, with it being volcanic areas are supposedly known for having UFO sightings. They go there a lot.
It's a squirrel day. I just want everyone to appreciate the fact that Jessica and I have the same little tiny notes on little tiny paper.
I've got my readers on, and I can't read either one of them.
Well,
So
I handwrote
You're-
mine,
yeah.
which, when I handwrite my own notes, what happens? I can't read half of it.
you two are prepared.
Well, my
So-
science teacher self, usually you think teachers have wonderful handwriting. I don't know how I became a teacher with such terrible handwriting.
I could be a doctor based on my handwriting, but I'm not. Okay, sorry. Unsquirrel.
So the Native Americans' name for this wasn't Devil's Tower. Did you go into that at all, or did you see anything on
Yeah,
that?
is it a sacred site or an evil site for the natives?
I think sacred.
Sacred. For most of them, it's like Bear Lodge, and there's some people trying to get it to be called back to what the Native Americans did, rather
Officially,
than Devil's Tower.
yeah.
Have it renamed, and I don't think that's such a bad idea, really. They actually talked about, I think it was a military guy that had done some exploring in the area, and actually there was a word which meant, like Bear's Home or Bear's Lodge in the Native American deal, but it was very close to something that was like Evil Lodge, and that's sort of Evil Home, and that's, what he picked up out of that, of not understanding the language. And so he then translated it into Devil's Tower. And that's kind of where the Devil's Tower came. But it was never, I won't say never, its main emphasis wasn't around devil or evil. It was more of a bear lodge or a
So it's just a
sacred
poor
bear.
translation.
A poor translation
Okay.
from the native Cheyenne or whatever the language was to, and I know what I did see what it was. I didn't know it, but to the English, and the words between like the Bear Lodge kind of thing and the evil thing were very close in that other language. Just a syllable different, and he got the wrong syllable and translated it.
May
as
as well
devil
correct
stuff.
it then.
Yeah, because it was that's never been the evil tower or anything like that in the native cultures. It was more of a bear, the
See-
bear lodge, the bear house.
And then there's me. I'm just old and stubborn. There's an arena in Salt Lake City where the Utah Jazz, the NBA basketball team plays. It's, I don't even, what is it called now? The Vivint Center? It was called the Delta Center like 30 years ago. I still call it the Delta Center.
I still call it the Salt Palace, and the Salt Palace was ripped down. And
So they could name Devil's Tower Bunnyland, and I will still call it Devil's Tower till I die because I'm just...
a hater.
In
Oh.
Tampa, there's it used to be Ford Amphitheater, and then they changed it 1-800 Ask Gary Amphitheater, and I refuse to call it that. It will forever be Ford Amphitheater.
And Pluto's still a planet, right?
No.
Well, actually, apparently they're going back to it being a planet, so
It
I
is
don't know
not a
much about
planet.
that.
Squirrel. I saw something on that too the other day. On maybe we need to change what the definitions of planets are again.
And yeah, that's what happens.
It's
Sorry.
almost like Castle's back on the show. We're having a really hard time staying on.
I'm gonna bring it back
It's
around.
all interesting, though.
Okay, yay.
Yeah, I can bring it back around.
Jessica's going to be our voice of reason here. Bring us back.
Well, the way you were talking about how is it like a sacred place or evil, it kind of reminds me a lot of native stories are like why something is the way it is. Like, why is the sun the sun? So I feel like that story with the bear is just explaining like this is why it exists instead of it being like a big
Are there
scary
sky
thing.
people in any of the legends?
Like a spirit or something that brought the,
Yeah.
you know, the big stone up to protect the 7 girls from the bear. So
Yeah, and in one of them, I think they said in one of the legends, the 7 girls are the stars in the Pleiades constellation.
yeah, they got turned into it.
Yep, because they're called the Seven Sisters. The Pleiades.
Mm-hmm.
The other name for it is the Seven Sisters.
Once
Yeah.
again, explaining a story of why that exists.
Yeah, and that constellation and tied into the tower. Very interesting. And again, the Great Spirit, you kind of get back into that and the lore, the Native America lore around those things.
Did you research some about, there was like an anniversary, like 40th anniversary of the close encounters of the third kind. And so they had people coming to do like UFO stuff. It discontinued in 2018. But yeah, so they have like events there
So like a yearly convention on site.
that no longer exist. Yeah.
And they discontinued it. Why?
It didn't say.
Because that was before the pandemic.
That's what I was thinking
Yeah.
too. I was like, that's not quite
That's
that
weird.
timeline.
Okay.
know,
They were
maybe-
all abducted.
I was going to say maybe they didn't get abducted, so they got discouraged and just quit.
Well, that could be. Somebody forgot to bring the tinfoil.
So this is something that I thought was interesting because we did a podcast years ago on ley lines, but I know that Emmett has talked about an interest in it, and I wouldn't mind doing another one on ley lines.
Just in my mind's eye, I still can see the last ley lines map I looked at of the western U.S. And I bet you that ley line that goes through Skinwalker Ranch and the Nexus in South Davis County, I bet that same ley line probably goes very close to Devil's Tower. And I will look that up.
Because one of the little notes that I found that I thought was very interesting is it says it's presumed to be on a nearly north-south ley line that also goes through the Denver airport, NORAD, and Roswell. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, if it's also on the east-west line
Then you
through
got another
Skinwalker,
nexus.
yeah.
And then you got like a double.
And that node that's out there in South Davis County is a very major node. It's exactly between the major hub in Canada and the one in Mexico. And the one in Mexico is supposedly it's a hub of corruption. The one in Canada is a hub of goodness and truth. And the one right here, close to the south shore of the Great Salt Lake is a balance node.
Well, and then there's supposedly a gigantic ley line up American Fork Canyon that's a negative one. And we need Jessica to bring us back to Devil's Tower.
I was actually waiting for the opportunity.
Okay.
I wanted to go back to what Emmett said about, I think his name is Joseph Allen Hynek. He was the
J.
one in
Allen
the
Hynek,
movie.
correct, yeah.
Yeah, he was a famed astronomer, professor, and one of the first official ufologists. And he claimed that alien life is here and has been for eons. So let's see here. I have like a quote here. I have come to support less and less the idea that UFOs are nuts and bolts spacecrafts from the other worlds. There are too many things going against this theory. To me, it seems ridiculous that super intelligence would travel great distances to do relatively stupid things like stop cars, collect soil samples, and frighten people. I think we must begin to re-examine the evidence. We must begin to look closer to home at alien life already here.
See, I totally 100% agree with that because I'm writing a paper right now, and for an assignment. It's an assigned topic. It's not a topic I picked. And the topic is to explain why the pyramids of Giza were not built by aliens. And why would an alien come down and build a pyramid? They got better things to do, I think. Anyway, so
They have their own world to decorate.
Yeah.
They look like an expression of monster ego to me.
Right. Yeah. No. Basically, yeah. So and I'm reading all this stuff, and it's like, no. If you think aliens built the pyramids, you need to get a hobby because there's too much evidence that points to the fact that they did not. So, same thing with Devil's Tower. There's just too much evidence to the contrary, proving that aliens don't.
He thought that UFOs and alien life on Earth may be linked to another dimension
I-
where UFO sightings are tied to some physical barrier that's somehow broken and thus people can see them.
Yeah, I think the interdimensional type of thing is more plausible than the extraterrestrial / intrastellar kind of thing, just because of the vast distances, and even if you can travel at the speed of light, and they start talking about that, to have a ship have enough energy to be able to get anywhere near the speed of light, it's a figure of diminishing returns, because you get to the point that the spaceship, to be able to travel near the speed of light, has to be infinitely big.
Well, to move infinite mass, you need infinite energy. But I submit that if you go the interdimensional route, that physical separation is no longer an issue.
Right, and
So,
that's where I am on the interdimensional route, that there's different realms.
They
different
can
things.
still come from Andromeda, but they're just not doing it in a ship. They're just
They're not doing it.
manipulating space-time to do it somehow.
Right.
Right. And I think it's just really easy. You look back in history on all the different, Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Indian lore. If you can't explain something through science because your technology's not there, you explain it other ways. And I think people still do that. We don't know how the pyramids were built. We don't know this or that. So rather than try to figure it out, aliens.
That's why we have cable TV.
We could do a science investigation and make something similar to it with the bricks and all that and try to figure out engineering.
Yeah. And I just think, I don't know. I'm going to get on my soapbox here, so just give me 1 minute and then we'll go back to the topic. But just because you don't understand how an ancient people did something or a modern people does something, don't just assume that
It was aliens?
It was aliens. I don't know. I think it's very egotistical of people to go, well, they didn't have the technology that we have, so they couldn't possibly have done it. So it must be aliens. I don't know. That thinking bothers me. I don't like that thinking.
They had to modify their own in a metal technology way.
Yeah. How much knowledge have we had and lost?
Exactly.
You explained that in a little bit about in the Western world, some of the things that the Arabs had kept from mathematics and science that
Were lost in the Dark Ages.
The Europeans had and lost.
Oh, before that, look at everything that burned in the library at Alexandria.
Right.
That's what I was thinking
Yeah,
of. Isn't that what's at Epcot?
Yeah, that was a huge loss.
Yes.
Yeah, and so we've lost, what are techniques and things that people learned over literally millennia that, was passed down father to son, family to family, on how things were done with these, building of the pyramids and the different things.
That was all probably perfectly cataloged in the great library.
Yeah,
of
and people,
Alexandria.
people had that knowledge, and and it's one of those things. It's like, well, we probably don't really need to keep. Everybody doesn't know how to move these huge stones because we're not building pyramids all the time. Kind of the years of pyramid building kind of went away for a while, and so that knowledge, wasn't used and wasn't passed down. Not that it hadn't been documented somewhere, because it may very well have been, but then lost. But it wasn't being practiced because there was no. They weren't building pyramids at that time. That era of those kind of great monuments left, and they started doing things like the tombs in the Valley of the Kings rather than the huge monuments that SETI.
Yeah, they started doing the
Ramses II.
Oh, and some of those
started
projects
doing
were like an entire lifetime of work for an architect or a designer or something.
I mean, the amount of languages lost just because it didn't quite get passed down. I mean, of course, technology advances from back in the day could have.
right. So anyway, back to
I can go back to it.
let's Jessica, help us.
We need more aliens. Bring on the aliens.
So I was looking through, and there was a man in 1941. I'm trying to flip my little special notebook paper here. He parachuted to the top, and he apparently said that that there was like alien-looking artifacts at the top. So
Wasn't he the first one to ever do it?
yeah, and then he had problems getting down. It took like several days, and so. We probably had plenty of time to
And
explore
he
the
didn't,
alien
of course,
stuff.
didn't take any pictures of the alien artifacts.
I'm sure maybe the cameras are too big in 1941. I don't know.
Brownie cameras, I don't know. Not that huge, but... Huh, well, of course, yeah. And he didn't bring any down with him, did he? Or was it
No.
carved in stone?
Apparently, whenever they were trying to like help him out, they flew and dropped stuff for helping, and he had like a megaphone, and he was like, "Can you bring comics too?" So I don't think he was worried about a camera. Apparently,
Well, maybe those artifacts are still up there.
yeah, it was for a $50 bet, is why he even did it. So
I wonder if you could send a drone.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently you can fly drones there. Someone was saying online, so
Fly a drone over it, see what's there.
we could do that.
One of these days.
Okay.
I have, there was someone talking about an experience they had visiting. The visitor reported being chased away from the base at dusk by devilish black figures who laughed demonically and ran twice as fast as the fastest humans.
Oh, that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
And yet these people still could outrun them?
I guess what I was thinking. I was like, did you duck away? And
We
So-
got to the car just in time.
They had their little radar gun as they went by.
Yeah.
My experience of picture taking at Devil's Tower was smile. Smile. I know you've driven for 12 hours. Smile.
Yeah.
Smile. Pretend like you like each other.
and then kids are like,
Stand
that's
up.
a big rock. Cool.
Can
I
we
guess.
go now?
Yeah, I've seen it.
I gotta go to the bathroom. The nice thing about going there in 2020, though, is there was nobody there.
Oh yeah.
And you'd think they go to outside things.
No, everyone was holed up in their house wearing their mask.
Yeah, the Renaissance Fair got full of people because it's an outside experience.
Then we didn't realize that we went on Sturgis Week.
That's why we had a hard time finding a hotel kind of near Mount Rushmore. We ended up in Spearfish.
Yes.
I think that's what they call it. It was a beautiful, beautiful little town. But when we went, through Sturgis, it's like, and it's motorcycle week.
Yeah, that was fun though. Kids look motorcycles. Repeat that about every 35 seconds.
That's
They're
way
like,
more
"Yeah,
fun than Devil's
I know
Tower.
motorcycles.
And then we went to Mount Rushmore after that. And it was a great trip.
We just had a really hard time staying on topic of Devil's Tower. If you get a chance to go see it, here's a little plug for going to see Devil's Tower. Where we live in Utah, kind of north central Utah, driving to Disneyland is not a big deal. It's 12 hours. You get in the car. Kids going to go to Disneyland. Get in the car, drive 12 hours. But for some reason, Mount Rushmore seemed like it was about 1 million miles away. Apparently, it is also 12 hours, just in the other direction. And so...
Reason one is you've never done it before. So the anticipation. Reason two, when you stop in Rollins for 4 to 6 hours, that also
Makes it long.
makes it longer.
And not a lot of scenery changes.
I was thinking,
along
is it
a
like
lot of that
super
route
flat and deserty,
Yeah.
not much to see?
Anyway,
for stretches of it.
point being, if you happen to live in this-ish area, go drive out to Devil's Tower. It was only, maybe 10 hours?
Yeah.
It was only a 10-hour drive. People listening to this in other countries are like, only 10 hours? Yeah, 12-hour drive for us is nothing. Anyway, so if you live in the area or have a chance to go to Devil's Tower, really you should go because it is fantastic. I mean, there is, I don't know if it's the ley line. I don't know if it's just the energy and the rock that it's made of. I don't know if it's supernatural. Maybe it's just because it's so different than the surrounding terrain, but it is really
Well, I want to go
Cool.
now because in 1977 I didn't have the paranormal investigator's frame of mind that I do now. So
And UFO investigator, too.
yeah,
And I would like to go again, just even without kids, and take ghost hunting equipment and get there a little earlier, because I don't need to stop at Rollins again.
Apparently a drone, too. We should take that.
And just do, just see what kind of things register on our equipment.
And the trip, there's a lot of other things. There's the Custer Battlefield, the Little Bighorn National Battlefield, which was very cool.
I bet we'd get a lot of evidence there.
Yeah, and
Oh, yeah.
that's an amazing site. And like I say, Spearfish wasn't very far. Sturgis, Deadwood.
Oh, Deadwood was fascinating. I want to go back to Deadwood too.
Yeah. In fact, a couple of my brothers went after we went. We suggested it, and they stayed in Deadwood, and they loved Deadwood. It was really
Yeah,
neat.
Deadwood is where Calamity Jane and Wild Bill Hickok are buried.
Yeah,
We went and
in
visited
that
their
cemetery.
graves.
Very cool area there. So we did some We didn't do ghost hunting, but we did some cemetery
Wanderings.
And
We had kids with us, so we had to.
Those are pretty iconic locations, though.
oh yeah,
And now you know what
And-
to expect if you go back.
So that we talked a little bit as one of our junk drawers of the cosmic
oh the Cosmo.
mystery, the
mystery
Cosmo mystery
spot.
spot. We've talked about that. It's right there by Mount Rushmore, and then Black Hills Gold. Next time we go, I've got to buy some Black Hills Gold. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and go out and look at on the web the Cosmos Mystery Spot. There's one I think in Oregon or California, and there's this other one in South Dakota. But it's
We've talked about it on a podcast.
it's pretty weird
it's
when you see
fantastic.
somebody dump water and it goes uphill and goes out, and it's pretty strange.
All right. Well, thank you. Stay spooky, my haunty friends.
And we'll see you next time.
Hey, good night.
Good night.
You've been listening to the Supernatural Hour at AdvancedParanormal.com. The Supernatural Hour is part of the Radio Ronin network found at RadioRonin.com. Copyright by Advanced Paranormal Services.